It's Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on NTA's network service and, of course, broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. World Environment Day is celebrated annually on the 5th of June. And, of course, the theme is to usually encourage awareness and action for the protection of the environment. It was first held 50 years ago in 1973, and since then it's been a platform for creating, once again, awareness on environmental issues, including marine pollution, climate change, wildlife protection, among others.
Of course, the participation from over 143 countries annually amplifies the advocacy for a safer environment, and today we focus on mitigating plastic pollution. And joining us to discuss this are two guests this morning. And I'd like Kingsley to introduce them.
That's right. First, would like to welcome Professor Babatunde Bernard. Professor Babatunde Bernard is a waste management consultant. We're glad to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Also here with us in the studios is Dr. Efebediki Okobia. Okobia is National President of the Nigerian Environmental Society. Dr. Okobia, glad to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
All right, gentlemen, it's good to see you. You know, when we talk about plastic pollution, it gives me one sense of some level of carelessness that we see ourselves, practicing, not just in Nigeria, but elsewhere. I have seen oceans of the world where a lot of plastics were pushed out from the sea, and of course you see even some fish and other animals swallowing plastic products and what have you across the globe. But in Nigeria, for instance, we know that any product made of polyethylene takes a lot of time. It does not decay. It takes over 40 years or more to do that. But we see ourselves plastic everywhere, polythene bags everywhere in the marketplaces, and what have you. Now, talking about mitigation, where do we begin from? Because, of course, in every market in Nigeria, superstores in Nigeria, a lot of polythenes, a lot of plastics everywhere, and the way people throw them around, even, in farmlands, you see polythenes, that does not decay. It takes a lot of time, a longer time to do that, and that affects also farming. Where do we begin from with this mitigation process that we have started?
Okay, you're asking me?
Begin with you. Yeah.
Okay, so let me start by saying it's unfortunate we find ourselves, as a country at this point, discussing the issue of plastic pollution when we have policy documents. Where do we start? The implementation of the policy documents, of course. There are ministries and agencies who are supposed to implement policy documents. Okay, and we all say, oh, government cannot do it alone. Well, is government giving the private sector the space to come as a player? Now, take, for example, the national policy plastic waste policy document. It has not been implemented. Take, for example,
who's supposed to implement it?
Well, the ministry is a policy.
Which agency? Which ministry?
You have NESRA, you have the Department of Pollution Control in the Ministry of Environment. So they're supposed to cascade that document down to the implementation level. 2020, when I was part of the consultants that did the strategic plan for the ministry 2020 to 2022, it was then the national policy on municipal solid waste was taken to the Executive Council for approval. 2020 to 2023, nothing has been done. Where's the implementation process? But let me say this, and I want to give kudos to multilateral organizations, the UNDP, UNIDO, they have provided funds. They've set up recycling plants. I know they did one in Nasarawa, they did in Anambra, but the sustainability of those projects is a shame. Those projects are not being sustained. So now let's go back to the basics. Okay, the solid waste, municipal solid waste is domiciled with the local government. I think that is where the challenge now comes from. The local government are responsible for municipal solid waste. Are they implementing it? There's a policy document, there's an implementer, the councils. Now, you find out that the council, local government council will tell you, yes, we're evacuating the waste. They're evacuating the waste from illegal dump sites along the roads. Most local government don't have a legitimate recycling plant or a dump site. There are two issues now. Now, I say this in most meetings and media interviews. If you are the implementer of a particular policy, the first thing you think of, what is the strategy in solving these challenges, isn't it? If you know you have challenge of funding, because that is where they throw the whole ideology to, oh, there's no funds to do this. Every person who is generating waste domestically must pay for evacuation. So set up a mechanism. It is a spinner and it's a job creator. It's an economic system that is not being looked at. Once it is properly implemented, you're going to have vendors who are going to evacuate the various cycles of waste. And that is also, putting more economic finances into the system. So I think we need to rejig the issue of the implementers, which goes down to the constitutional provision for the local government.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Okobia. Professor Bernard, are we paying sufficient attention to plastic pollution in Nigeria?
The answer is capital no. Like the president rightly said, some efforts are being made, but they are still abysmally low compared to the menace or the size of the problem we're having with plastic. Just to be, I teach this way. I first of all want to give some statistics that should be frightening to my students. That's what I do, so that they know the problem we are dealing with. When I teach environmental science, I want to make sure I leave them very sad, so that they can think about solutions. In Nigeria, about 2.5 million tons of waste, plastic waste, is generated, and 88 or 90% is not recycled. That means it ends up on the street, ends up in our waterways, in our gutters. And it's such a bad practice in some places that once a beautiful road is just paved, the next thing is that waste, the ridge in the middle becomes a dump site. The line up waste trailer comes, blows it, and everything goes off again in the air.
So when you talk about the tons of plastic waste generated, is it possible for you to convert that so that our viewers can understand, say,
yes,
how many trailer loads of it would that be?
Right. Well, a ton is 1,000 kilogram. A trailer is a 30-ton trailer, for instance. So if you divide 2.5 million by 30, yes, I'm not very good with figures, but you can have a sense of the number of trailers of nylon that are produced per year. The pure water sachet, the pure water one, about 60 million pure water sachets are used and disposed on a daily basis in Nigeria. Now, this is a serious problem worldwide. But as I was discussing with the president before we came into the studio, there's a divide between the political will to do things and the scientific way of doing things. Why the scientists look at the careful paradigm of activities or actions that can be carried out to mitigate a particular solution, the politician is interested in profit. And once this process is going to take away money, the politician is not interested. The politician is interested in profiting for the management of the country. Yes. But what they don't realize is that there are certain mitigations that you embark on which are proactive and are preventive in nature. One policy on banning plastic in Nigeria, we cut this plastic production by at least half immediately. If you buy sweet, I'm not exaggerating because I'm a scientist, we've carried out this. If you buy bread is already in a polythene bag, then they give you a polythene bag to put it in. If you buy sweet, they do the same thing. And sometimes when you reject it, they are wondering that what's wrong with this man? How can you be carrying bread on the street? So this attitude is where I take it back to where he's talking about implementation. The policies are there, at least since 2020, the one of plastic, that I reviewed it, the waste management and all that, they are now there. One of the components of that is awareness creation. The people must know the consequences of what we're doing by this use of nylon. When they say, oh, so this same nylon I'm collecting will get back into my food, I will eat it and have cancer, then they will think twice or accept not to use it the way we are using it at the moment. So the efforts are being made, but it's not critical yet.
Prof, I want to stay with you because the danger of plastics or polythene bags littered all over the place is because they are not biodegradable. That is basically one. How does this affect farmlands? When in the middle of our farmland, you see pure water, sachet water, you know, because even the farmers, I honestly, last week I visited a farm in Benue State, in a place called Howe in Benue State. And I had to, I'm a local farmer, you know, and I have some, you know, some of the ladies and young men who are in the farm, you know, I decided to have a feel of staying in the farm with them. I mean, it's pure water, everybody has the sachet water, and after that, you still drop it in the farm, okay, and all that. So, now, what is the implication of this to the soil? Yeah.
Yes, the plastic is made from, is synthetic. Majority of the plastic we use. It will interest you to know that we can make plastic from cellulose, which is biodegradable, but they prefer to make it from the petroleum products because it's faster, is to multiply in large quantities. So it is from petroleum products, and once it is there, it's there. You say 40 years to degrade. It is actually over 400 years to degrade. So it's there, it's there. And as the plastic is undergoing weathering, photochemical actions, they are breaking up in pieces, in small pieces. They are adding to the soil, and they have an affinity for even your fertilizer. So when they are there, you put your fertilizer, the fertilizer prefers the affinity or the romance they will have with the plastic, and then your plant doesn't have access to your fertilizer. This is the problems of plastic anywhere, apart from the fact that they make the tilling of your soil very difficult for you. The presence of the plastic there is equivalent of the presence of petroleum products, and so there's no way the soil will be fertile. So it's a big issue that needs urgent attention, and the policies, like you said, are already there.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Bernard. Dr. Okobia, there is some, if you like, or there are now some tentative steps towards dealing with plastic pollution. From time to time, you see persons collecting plastic water bottles and so on and so forth. And I think the Nigerian Environmental Society had a conference last year in Abuja, and I remember listening to one of the major soft drink manufacturers explain, for instance, that excuse me, part of what they have done is to reduce the weight of their bottles so that the bottle becomes more easily amenable for recycling or otherwise. So there are some tentative steps that we are seeing, but what we are looking for is a critical mass, and therefore more enlightenment. People just, when you tell an average Nigerian now, after taking water or drinking water from pure water sachet and throwing it away, say, oh God, no, don't do this type of thing. It's like you are insulting him. And so what is missing? You talked about local governments, but I hope you recognize that local governments have been emasculated by state governments. Where you go to state governments, you will see the waste management authority is under the state rather than under the local governments. So how do we break out of that and get local governments to function, plus other things that we need to do?
Well, thank you for bringing this up. I think there must be some understanding. You see, even if you look at, civil service, they tend to see themselves as competitors, and that is critically wrong. They must see themselves as team player. Okay. Now, even if you have the State Environmental Protection Board at the state level, domiciled with the state government, by law, the local governments are responsible. What that implies, And as I was discussing with Professor Ben earlier, there must be a stakeholder meeting with the key players, the key actors, which are the local government. Bring them together. Give them an understanding that, look, what we're trying to do here is to solve a problem that is going to consume us if it's not taken care of. Now, I want to reiterate by saying, globally, secular economy is now the in thing, whereby they don't see anything as waste anymore. Why is it taking us this long to get the concept and drive the narrative? So what I think we should do in attending to this very quickly is to get the government, the incoming government, to understand where the problem is.
Incoming when?
Well, okay, well, the what?
There's a government in place already.
Yeah, so I want to say the Minister of Environment is going to come on board to understand the process. And that means whoever is going to man any ministry must have an holistic idea of the functionality of that ministry. I think that's also been a gap. It shouldn't be political, it should be expert in that field, and that will help drive the narrative. Now, once the local government comes into play to understand the reality of what is on ground, all they need to do is turn that process into wealth creation. Once you understand that you can make money from this, you don't look at it as waste anymore, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, the thinking of our people is not going to that direction, especially those politicians, right? You know, who should know better. You know, and local government in Nigeria is totally dysfunctional, and I mean, you don't need to factor them in for now, unless something changes. Professor Bernard, we just have 1 minute to go. Is it necessary, at least to begin from polythene bags made of polyethylene, to be banned totally? Because in some countries, I think Ghana, you use only your Cote d'Ivoire, you just Rwanda, or any such anything you do, you know, use the wood to produce your bags and all that, because wood is also natural thing, it's friendly.
Yeah.
Is it a possibility? Can it happen here?
Yes, it can happen, but again, you must strike the balance. Look at wood. It means that we'll have more trees cut down. So you are solving one problem, you are bringing the other one.
How are so doing that?
Yes.
What are they doing?
Yeah, there has to be a balance. It is possible, first of all, to answer your question, to ban the use of plastic.
No, not plastic. The bags.
Yes, the polythene bags. Yes.
Plastics are. I mean,
yes, it is possible to ban. It's possible to ban that, but you know, policies like that, before they are very drastic, will take some time to do that. I would rather, like I was telling the president, will center on the management aspect of it, like the commercialization of the utilization of those plastic bags. NTA followed a program which we did when I was a consultant to Ministry of Special Duties in Kaduna, when we gathered hundreds of alamajiris and the street boys and trained them on how to convert the plastic, the pure water nylon, into interlocking ties. That process trained hundreds of people, financed and supervised by the Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs under distinguished Senator George Akume, who is now the SGF. Now, we also taught them how to use the one you are drinking water with, to use it to build houses. It will glad you to know that one of the young persons we train is in Ibadan right now building 20 units of plastic houses in an estate.
I hope they have a fire service not too far from there.
No, fire does not affect it. Okay. The technicalities, the technology we brought with Dow, Professor Yahaya, it's from Germany, and it's fireproof, bulletproof, and all those things. So the technologies to utilize these things are there. Government should begin to center on it.
Professor Bernard,
yes.
we're out of time. Yeah. As this is a very interesting topic, and I'm sure that from time we have dealt with it on Good Morning Nigeria in the past. At that time, if I recall, there was no policy on dealing with plastic wastes. One of the easiest things, Kirian, local government, Why don't you create a system to say, look, any person that brings, let's say, 1 kg of plastic,
you collect the 10 naira.
You collect 10 naira. Let people be going to the back collecting pure water.
They're
pure
doing
water
that already.
And then they will put it somewhere. They'll send it to the recycling plant.
Yes.
On which note, gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for being with us. National President, Nigerian Environmental Society, that's Dr. Efegbudiki Okobia. Dr. Okobia, thank you for being our guest this morning.
It's my pleasure.
And a waste management consultant, Professor Babatunde Bernard. Thank you, gentlemen.
My pleasure.
With us. And congratulations on the World Environment Day that took place yesterday, June the 5th. Well, that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Tomorrow is another day, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirian Umar. I'll see you again tomorrow.